Wow, everybody got really quiet. I appreciate that. Good evening. My name is Kevin McGinnis. I'm the CEO of the Keystone Community Corporation. We are the nonprofit that plans, develops, and operates the Innovation District here in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. And we're also working on a sister development over in KCK at the old Indian Springs Mall site called Midtown Station. We've been around since 2018. And our goal is to bring together all the innovation assets in the region through programming and placemaking. We're not a real estate organization, but we are focused on trying to build what's called the soft infrastructure around innovation. So these are the programs, the accelerators, the support for our entrepreneurs, the support for corporate innovation, and the support for our university research commercialization partners, and so on. The way that you do that, the way that we've seen this done around the world, is through these innovation districts. So these are walkable, dense neighborhoods where you have all these stakeholders in one place and you just curate collisions and intersections between industries and between stakeholder groups, and you see kind of these explosions in economic output through these innovation districts. Kansas City is the only city our size, when you look at the bi-state region, that does not have one of these innovation districts today. So we are falling behind our peer cities. And so our goal is to try to bring that to Kansas City, and because we have this thing called state line, we have to do it twice. We can't just do it once. So I wanted to get up here for just a few minutes and welcome everybody to Keystone. If you haven't been to Keystone CoLab, welcome. This is our community center for the Kansas City, Missouri Keystone Innovation District. And what I wanted to do was just say a few words. A couple things happened this week that are relevant to this conversation that you're going to have tonight. And we have been extremely excited ever since Molly and Keegan walked through the doors and asked us if we would partner to kind of grow this ecosystem and grow this meetup group. We've been excited about the opportunity to support the defense industry overall, because we know that there are some tremendous strengths and some tremendous assets in this area. We just have to start pulling those things together to continue to grow this. So two things happened. One, the Global Institute on Innovation Districts, which is a fellowship of 50 innovation districts around the world. We were invited to participate in 2023 as one of those innovation districts. They put out a new research paper yesterday called The Power of Soft Infrastructure, which we talk about innovation districts as being physical infrastructure, as being research commercialization, lab space, things like that. What we don't talk about is most of the successful innovation districts, actually all of the successful innovation districts around the world, have what you call soft infrastructure, which is the programming that we put in place. So it was a validating moment, and I just wanted to kind of use that as an opportunity to set up what I'm going to talk about here. The second thing that happened was I saw this article yesterday. This is, I think it's literally 23 hours old now, from Mug News. I don't know, this is a small maybe media outlet in Nebraska that talked about these 4 cities that have built innovation around the defense industry and how they've successfully done that and what things they've put in place. And one of the things that you'll see as you go through, and it's Norfolk, it's Hampton Beach, it's Huntsville, it's San Antonio. I mean, I think you guys are probably all familiar with the cities where some of this work is happening. They talked about what the requirements are for a lot of that, and one of the things they highlighted was this idea. They didn't call it the same thing, but this idea, this need for soft infrastructure, this idea for more programming to pull the stakeholders together. Why don't we have a defense accelerator? Why don't we have some of the other assets and some of the other programs in Kansas City that would support our status as a defense innovation hub here in the United States? And so it reminded me about a program that we just recently launched, and I wanted to make sure this group was aware of that. So during Global Entrepreneurship Week, which was the second week of November, we announced a new program called Corporate Connection Studio. And this is our objective is to start to get industry involved again and create the intersection between industry university, between industry and startups, between industry and community. But we need to do that through this soft infrastructure. That's one thing we lack in the corporate innovation space here in Kansas City. I spent 24 years at Sprint. I ran product and ran innovation programs there. I recognize what this innovation infrastructure needs to look like from a corporate innovation perspective, and we just lack it in Kansas City. So we launched this program. The goal is really, how do we help solve your problems as corporate industry players? How do we do that through the startup ecosystem? And we know that maybe there's not the amount of deal flow, the amount of high growth enterprise ready startups in the metro or in the region today. So we've leaned into some corporate partners to really, and I'll highlight who those partners are in a couple more slides, I guess. We've leaned into some partners to really help us start to recruit startups to the area, and we need those corporate partners to really, I'll just say, be that bait on the hook, to really give them incentive to come work with that first customer, that first partner, put that first logo on the page for them, and so on. We got funding from the Kauffman Foundation. We were one of the project grant awardees this spring, which allows us to really subsidize the cost of this as an entry point for corporations to get involved. And so what we've done is we've created 3 tiers of entry for corporations to be involved. These are annual prices. So there's a free tier to get your employees and the members of your company involved in the ecosystem work that we do here. There's a $10,000 a year tier that really is year-round programming, quarterly pitches or reverse pitches. There's an innovation council. There's a tremendous amount of annual programming that goes in that as well. And then there's a $25,000 tier where you can be part of this accelerator program that we're launching for corporations to really attract startups. These are to do pilots. These aren't early stage startups that are just going to be focused on raising money and working with you as partners. They're going to be pilot ready, enterprise ready companies that we're recruiting from around the world to work with our industry players here in Kansas City. And we think this is a great opportunity for us to bolster some of the defense industry and defense innovation work that we want to do. Partners that we're working with, when I say we're going to cast a wide net, Endeavor, which is a global firm that focuses on unicorn-ready startups and connects them to resources. They started outside the United States. They've recently planted a flag, like I say, recently in the last 4 or 5 years in Northwest Arkansas. They opened a Kansas City office here last year. They're actually headquartered right behind me here. They're going to be recruiting startups from all over the world through their network to come work with corporations here in Kansas City. Flyover Capital is going to be working as an innovation scout to really, as we define industry problems and define problems that companies want us to go solve, they'll use their network of VCs around the United States to go find those startups, to bring them back and curate introductions and opportunities to work together. Pipeline Entrepreneurs, which is a large fellowship and membership here in the Midwest, they're also going to be serving as an innovation scout. And then the KC Tech Council is really going to help us kind of round that out from an industry perspective here in Kansas City. When I say we've got annual program, we've got programming throughout the year for our industry players. Even at the 10,000 tier, here's some of the things that we're doing. We'll be providing custom innovation briefs, which is basically reports that will show where the innovation lies in your industry, where there are partners that you should be partnered with based on the startup ecosystem. We'll provide one report twice a year for each of our partners. The Innovation Scout's a rolling program where you define the problem, we go find the startup. And some of the other things that I've already mentioned up here. The Accelerator program will run once a year. It's a 12-week program. Basically, it's 6 2-week sprints that are really kind of pair the corporation with the startup to build the pilot, build the prototype, build the first product together, and so on. So it's not just about matching them and making introductions, making sure that they get that work done in 3 months and show that progress. And our team will be curating those experiences as well. And then here's just a list of things that, benefits that we've seen throughout my career and other ecosystem players around the nation in terms of the benefits for companies that are participating in programs like this. And so if you want to learn more about the program, if you want to learn more about what we're doing with Corporate Connections, you can hit the QR code, you can go to our website and you can schedule a consultation, or you can, there's a one-pager that you can download if you want to learn more information. There's additional information there as well. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew some of the stuff we were doing here. We've got a new angel network if you're interested in angel investing. We've got a membership program for early stage, high growth startups that we just created called the Co-Foundry. So there's a variety of other programming. We've had it rolling on some of these TVs. Catch one of our folks around the room, Christina Hawker, our director of programming. Raise your hand, Christina. Steve Young over there, he's our director of partnerships. You can grab either one of them and ask about the program if you want to learn more information. So I appreciate everybody's attention. Where is Molly? Is all right, saying we're going to stick to the plan? All right, fantastic. So without further ado, I will get out of your way and bring Brian Weaver up here, President of AFCEA, to kick things off. So everybody give Brian a round of applause and welcome.
So I think you're in for a treat. There's probably no better moderator for the topic of artificial intelligence in defense and intel industry than Molly Christie. And so Molly and I actually hashed a plan to revitalize AFCEA up in North Kansas City, a little coffee shop, like 2 years ago or something. So thanks to Molly for her early days in getting AFCEA going. AFCEA is the largest professional organization of technologists that are focused on the defense and intel industry. It actually started back in the Civil War, and it was really, AFCEA is like a telecommunications association. And so it really started with that and turned into IT, and then now, of course, software. But all of the biggest events If you're in DoD land or the defense space, AFCEA is really probably the most important organization globally for this type of content. And the Kansas City organization, it's nascent, obviously, and we're building it. But even 2 years ago, something like this wouldn't have been possible. So thanks to all the team, thanks to Molly in particular, and we appreciate you guys coming out and giving us your time and learning some more about this. So Molly in particular started out her career, the early part of her career, working for an AI company in San Francisco called Primer. And again, a typical kind of AI studio. Then later, ended up working for a company called Unveil up in Maryland. And Unveil does a bunch of encrypted, almost like workstation stuff, encrypted browsing, fundamentally. Why are you laughing? Because I know you? Yeah. And she's now one of the public sector leaders at a company called Unstructured. And Unstructured has, in fact, I think just shared, they just won another Army contract, I think this week. Yes? Yes, thank you. So there's no better moderator that you have today than Molly Christie. Molly, come on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian. That was very nice. I just joked with him. I didn't know he knew my entire work history, but I love it. Well, thank you so much again for being here. We're really excited. Brian gave the AFCEA pitch, so I don't have to give that part of my little intro. One thing I did want to mention, though, is to consider joining the chapter. We have little QR codes, so please look at those. And the other thing is we have a prospectus available for 2026 for sponsorship. So we're able to do these great events based on previous sponsorships from folks like George, from Soft Warfare, from Echo Select, from J.E. Dunn, from Data Locker, CGSC Foundation, but we need sponsors for all of our events next year. Every other month, we will be having events here, and so those prospectuses are available at front. So you guys can take a seat, get comfortable. So on to the good stuff. So tonight we're talking about AI and autonomy, and AI and autonomy as critical national security imperatives really need no introduction in my mind. We're inundated daily with AI developments across government and industry, and if you're following what's happening with unmanned systems in Ukraine or developments in commercial robotics, you know we're at this inflection point. So without further ado, let's get right to it. With our distinguished panelists here, we're going to start with some brief introductions, move on to a moderated discussion, and then open it up for Q&A. So please have your questions brewing for our panelists here. So I will start right here with brief introductions, and we are going to share our names, organization and role, and a brief introduction on why your work puts you at the center of AI/autonomy. I'll be saying that probably frequently tonight, AI/autonomy in practice. So if we have the mics figured out, Matt's got it. Start with Matt here.
I know I picked the wrong seat, sitting here first. Okay, so Matt Heiser, I'm the Director of Operations at the Kansas City National Security Campus. Why I'm here and talking about AI is that I am leading the site-wide strategy to implement AI at our site. So excited to talk today and help answer questions later. So,
awesome. Dr. Pritchard?
Hey everyone, Mike Pritchard. I'm with Kansas State University, professor in machine learning and autonomous systems. Been there for 6 years, but also before that, industry 26 years, data science, data engineering, machine learning specialist. So very heavy on the tech side. Happy to be here.
Colonel Hogan?
So Colonel Chris Hogan, I'm the commander for the 184th Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Group out of the 184th Wing, McConnell Air Force Base, Kansas. So part of the Kansas Air National Guard. So I've been in the Guard for 25 years, born and raised in Kansas. But I lead a team of 374 intelligence analysts and cyberspace analysts that do amazing things for America, do amazing things for the state of Kansas. So why I'm here is we house both intelligence operations that have been going nonstop for 20 years straight, but then also we have a center of excellence for Air Combat Command that exists right here, again, in Wichita, Kansas, that does the augmentation, automation, and artificial intelligence machine learning center of excellence for, again, Air Combat Command. So from an Air Force ISR enterprise standpoint, so in the intelligence community, we get to do a lot of testing, evaluation of a lot of capabilities and build them and take them to the tactical level of operations, again, here in Wichita.
Colonel Dave Wright. I'm the Combined Arms Center's Command Chief, Data and Analytics, and AI Officer, and probably Chief Technology Officer too. It's just not on the business card yet. The Combined Arms Command, we have education from just after basic training all the way for advanced individual training up through the War College under our purview. We have the doctrine, the intellectual foundations of how we fight from team level all the way to Corps, Theater, Army, with joint partners as part of the joint force. How we train, what we train, the task conditions and standards on that. Lessons learned. We just picked up as part of the transformation responsibility for campaign of experimentation, the bringing new equipment, new ways of fighting, new technologies into formations and pushing the envelope to see where we take it. Taking the lessons from Ukraine, Gaza, other places, all of that data, that knowledge comes quickly, and the Army is not quick. So our ability to speed that up in terms of how we change people, change behavior, change thinking, psychology, is going to require as we make our way forward.
Hello, my name is John Kramer. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Torch AI, and I am here because we deploy data and AI solutions, typically looking at the science of and doing research on the understanding and the creation of computable data from multimodal sources. So when different places, I see you laughing back there, Chris. When there are different stovepipes of data, they exist in heterogeneous kind of multimodal fashions, and we have to compute those so that we can make that data more usable. We can do holistic analysis of data, and that's the kind of deployments that we do for DoD and intelligence. So looking forward to it.
Thanks, John. Awesome. Well, thanks again, all of you, for being here. We're really excited. We have a rock star panel. So, John, maybe I will start with you again. Can you talk about one specific use case or capability that you are developing right now for a DoD or for another customer that would have been unrealistic even 5 years ago?
Yeah, sure. So there are a few contributing factors to why things were more unfeasible, say 5 years ago, right? So the use case would be like all source data fusion in real time, right? And so it's one thing to sort of have a human cognate on how to go fuse data, find entities, and join things across kind of a different spectrum of data. But to do it in real time is a whole different animal, okay? And sort of to meet the threshold for the speed of relevance, you have to do some interesting things. The reason number one it wouldn't have happened 5 years ago is a sheer adoption factor. So by my purview, 5 years ago, AI, and especially in the data sciences, was more of a science experiment, maybe 10 years ago. And it wasn't seen as like a competitive necessity. Now I think people have kind of changed and like, wow, I'm going to fall behind if I don't incorporate this technology. And then number two, and like I hate to make it about me or us, but we've just had some breakthroughs. We've invented some things for computational, data, like data algorithms and things like that. And so, in fact, we just had a patent like a week ago get issued for multi-end fusion. As the science of data understanding has kind of matured and as we've sort of unveiled certain things, it's really allowed us to do much more interesting multi-end fusion kind of use cases.
Super interesting. That I think that Colonel Hogan probably has a similar kind of application there in the work that you guys do. But is there any that goes along with that fielding of AI or autonomy capability you're using today in your mission set that would have been unrealistic 5 years ago? We're going to try to do this kind of same questions so we can level set on what those people are working on and challenges.
Yeah, there's multiple aspects of AI that we leverage. Unfortunately, we had to fail forward in a lot of different areas because you can't just drop an AI system onto a weapon system and expect it to work. So we do things like object-based methodologies and tracking of specific objects. Okay, so we used to track on spreadsheets where everything was at, and we would we'd have our analysts funneling through troves and troves of spreadsheets of where's everything at. Again, not real time, not accurate a lot of times because it's moved a lot. If we're talking about specific objects, is how can you take all of that data from all the data sources that we're receiving? So all of the sensors that are globally integrated, how do you take that data and then find each one of those targets and then say, hey, I'm an analyst, this is what I think it is. And then I got to be able to take another data source and then fuse typically image against it to say, okay, that's what it is. So we're trying to track all of these things, all these objects, and we're doing it on spreadsheets. Doesn't make sense. Takes hours, days, months to be able to track all of these different objects. So how do you take that, automate all those spreadsheets, and it's a real-time update from all of the different data sources we're pulling from it, and then making sure that it's accurate so our analysts know pretty much where everything's at all the time, that is typically near real time or real time, and then it's accurate so we can drive decision making to, okay, this is where it's at and this is why I care about it, and if it's moved, why do I care about that from an indications and warning perspective? So just a little bit of insight into kind of some of the things, some of the challenges our analysts have had, and then honestly how our analysts have solved their own problems in those use cases. So
very, very interesting. In terms of Dr. Pritchard, in your work, what is it one AI or autonomous system that you're feeling right now or working on that would have been unrealistic 5 years ago?
Well, I have so many stories that are popping up in my head, and I'm just like trying to think of like the best way to put this together. But the thing, I think what it comes down to, from my side, and this is the industry and academic side, and I say this regularly, but AI and AI technologies have far surpassed. I used to give talks on machine learning 12 years ago. And so I'm trying to weave this in a way that makes sense here, that it used to be like, oh, here's the algorithms, here's the math. We'd go to, here's some Jupyter Lab notebooks. Everyone got super excited about that. They'd be like, oh my gosh, and we go look at code and we're like, hey, we're geeking out on this. And then it still came down to, but yeah, that's great, but how do we integrate it? How do we do the systems integration part, right? Because the technology has been around for a really long time, right? And I'm big on Hollywood stuff, and Dr. Robert Davis in the crowd, he knows this about me as well. But I think of the imitation game, right? The usage of machine learning technologies, and that was an old school artificial intelligence engine used for warfighting capability, right? And it was a statistical engine. But when you look at what it is that we do today, we're just doing the same thing. It's just at scale now. And so I think the biggest thing that I can say is, when you talk about the multimodal models that we've got now and the AI capability we have now, I'll say this, it's way beyond what we even see in Star Trek. I mean, like you look in Star Trek and like Hello Computer, it's like, I mean, now you can jump on an AI and get your therapy, your calculus. You can get your algebra, you can get your economics assignments, you can get all kinds of stuff taken care of with one model, which is crazy, right? So to kind of put this into a little piece for me is it's the system integration part, because we can train, and we're doing this now. How do I do something where I can do maneuver and fire on the battlefield and have an AI help develop that and do it real time. Well, the technology all exists today to do that. It becomes a systems engineering problem right now. That's really what the big issue, and that's the big challenge. So that's what I'd say that from my side is what I'm seeing. So.
Love it. So we're going to finish out with this question about 5 years ago, but then we'll move on. Colonel Wright, we joked a little bit about LLMs in the back, but is there one specific capability or AI tool that would have been unimaginable 5 years ago that you guys are implementing at CAC?
Yeah, we've been pushing very slowly uphill on this. LLMs, even a year ago, being on an Army network, on a DoD or Department of War network, because of our security, because of the requirements to get authorities to operate, all those bureaucratic nightmares. You're just on your head, so you know where I'm at. We were just struggling to get there. As we came on board with it and we started to get offerings available, it's all been retrievable augmented generation, all RAG-based LLMs, which are okay, have their utility. But we were getting those offerings because our data is a hot mess. The phrase we used this morning was messy, or a couple hours ago. And so that whole process of getting all that data, the petabytes and probably push towards brontobytes, hopefully, of data we have, long form, unstructured text, documents of every type, and getting that fused together so that we're able to feed the machines better. The machines can read what we write. We like pictures. There's probably a joke there. But you look in an Army operational graphic or a threat template, we have our own regional dialect of the English language. We have our own symbology that is hieroglyphics to most people on the machine. So pulling all of that together now, we're about to, I think, cross that Rubicon now to bring that together to drive it all further, faster than it is going to happen.
Yeah, the data problem, before getting to the AI, solving the data problem, which is still rampant.
Yes.
I'll go to Matt with that last question. Last 5 years, something that would have been unimaginable. What are you guys working on at KCNSC?
Yeah, I think similar challenges to what we've heard from a data perspective, from a what it takes to get there, from a governance, from a policy, those types of things we've had to work through. As a manufacturing facility, we have no shortage of data and things. Turns out that most of the data that we had over the last however many years is really pretty useless when it comes to AI. So we're having to figure out how to go take that data, plug it into things. As a manufacturing facility, like I said, we're just trying to go as fast as possible in the areas where we can apply the amounts of data that AI makes sense. And so we're like, one of the examples that I would give is looking at some automated or more automated, I would say, kind of inspection techniques and things that we can do that where we have that data, where we have that information, applying it in a way that in sometimes is certainly faster, but in some cases is more accurate as well. So just some pretty exciting opportunities there for us to apply it within the manufacturing environment.
Amazing. And has there been good progress in terms of getting the data house in order?
Progress, yes. We're a ways away, maybe years in some cases from getting it to that point. We're not striving for perfection, I would say, at the very beginning, but certainly working to figure out how we make that data better, how we can use it, and how we can apply it in the right ways.
Yeah, that's a common barrier that we hear, but I'm interested in anyone else's views in terms of, like, we always hear the data, but also like culture, organization, like these challenges that get just coming and actually implementing AI at scale. Does anyone have a viewpoint on like what they would consider to be kind of that biggest choke point in real adoption at your organizations?
So one observation we've had, which was a painful lesson even, was that, back to kind of the systems engineering sort of concept, right? If your AI is obviously AI, it might be doomed. And so if you can sow this inferencing into existing workflows, somebody's daily life, right? And not ask them to go learn another tool and swivel chair absolutely everything they do. We found that that is probably the best chance for AI survival is probably when it's sewn into the workflow of existing processes and things like that.
Not another screen, not another workflow.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's still you've heard it as a theme is it's a data problem, right? I mean, there's always still we keep generating more and more data at a rate that we can't we could never possibly analyze all of it, right? And so and unstructured data, and it becomes really, I mean, it just becomes really, really messy. And then how do you take that so that I can train your new generation of large language models? And so the rule of, it's funny is because doing the AI part is actually the easy part. That's not the hard part. It's the data part. It's it used to be the 80-20 rule, and I kind of see it as almost a 90-10 rule. It's becoming more of a 90% data problem. And it just keeps getting more and more that they keep edging into that more of a data problem. And then I think the other piece is, I'd say getting people around two things. And this is getting into the philosophical kind of piece of it, not too much, I promise. Is bodied systems. And that's the thing that I think people I don't think I bump into it when I'm talking to people because they don't realize that, the fancy thing right now is, of course, an AI that I engage in through a chat. And so then they're like, it's a chat bot. It's way more than that, right? But the thing is that when you look at the robotic side of the house, that's where you get into the bodied systems and bodied AI. And that's the piece that I think people don't really realize how fast. You look at what Engine AI, if you haven't done it yet, go look at Engine AI T800. Go YouTube it, go find out. Everyone thought it was a CGI video, right? That's not CGI. That machine is not a CGI machine. And not just that, not the body mechanics, but they're putting in an ability for you to be able to converse with it at a local level. So that's what's really amazing. So that's the other piece of it, is I'd say that it's data, but then also the bodied systems piece of it.
Yeah.
And then there's a psychology piece to it too.
Absolutely.
In terms of just like the humans, whether we're sloppy, we're messy, we're interesting. And something like the United States Army, we like to say we're adaptive, we like to say we're agile, until you get in a room with us and tell us to change our ways. And trying to convince people who've done a process on somewhere like Fort Leavenworth, where there's some folks who've been there longer than I've been in the Army, and trying to get them to change a process that, one, they're afraid that the AI is going to take their job because they've been told that. Two, the first time they try it, it doesn't do what they think it should do. They never want to touch it again because it's more time involved. Or even worse, back to the data problem. We're really weird. We don't use Excel spreadsheets like most of humanity would use an Excel spreadsheet. It's not just a spreadsheet. It is a briefing tool. It is something you hand to your boss. If you join, this is the most ridiculous thing. We join cells or merge cells consistently to make this page look better when we're handing out as a product in Excel spreadsheet. I can't just stick that in the machine. It's now looking at the rows and columns and going, I don't understand this piece. Now go back and tell people who've been trained to operate that way, to merge cells to make it look better. They need to stop doing that. I think I said they were, from Mars or something, because they just sit there and go, why? And so the data piece it's getting the standards and then getting people to understand why the standards are there, because they will revert back to their first principles. And first principles in the Army, once they set in, it might as well be in cement. Like it's hard to change.
Yeah, that human barrier, the cultural barrier, yes. Anything else from anyone else in terms of the choke point that they see as like another big barrier to meaningful adoption in your specific mission sets?
I was just going to add a bit, maybe more anecdotally, in the fact that there is so much excitement about it, I think, at the site, which is really good. But how do you balance that without stifling some of the innovative things that are going on? Balance that with, we have lots of procedures and things that we have to walk through to get a tool approved. So figuring out that balance has been difficult to make sure that we're pushing fast while staying safe within our environments.
Right, right. All the special requirements and security things that we have to face in our world. Hogan?
So I work at the tactical level edge of joint warfighting operations with my team. So I think, we spend a significant amount of time in the data standards and data integrity and trying to get everybody to focus on just standardizing it so we can automate the identification piece, but then allow the man in the loop, the analysts, to really increase their speed and scale to actually be able to do analysis. What is the analysis actually matters? Why do I care about that object? So, but we have to spend time with re-standardizing data after we get it. And when we talk about the decisions that we drive at the tactical level edge, if data is not structured and if we can't use it by the time it gets to us, we're talking about workflows that take seconds, fractions of seconds that really add up to really big things when we talk about effects-based operations. So if data is not accurate and it can't integrate immediately into our workflow, whatever AI it is, whatever model we're using, if it doesn't immediately integrate into our existing workflows, that are already within seconds to be able to drive an effect into theater and to a 4-star level that says, yep, that's the effect I need on that specific object or whatever. We talk about seconds. All of those things add up to minutes, hours, days, when we only have seconds to be able to integrate it, make sure it's accurate, make sure it's reliable, so our analysts can say, hey, yep, that's accurate. That's why that's also the criticality of, you got to have a man in the loop for us. So there's other, and this is probably part of the question later, but it's also a criticality of we have to have somebody in a loop to validate it.
Right.
And right now it takes too long to be able to integrate it, confirm it, that its accuracy, its reliability, and then create an effect, or drive a decision that's going to create an effect. So just some of the challenges that we run into, barriers that we run into from a cultural aspect, very similar. The Department of War doesn't move fast, but we are trying to move fast, at the tactical level edge this day. And honestly, our younger generations are the ones that are pushing us to be able to make sure it's effective. So that's exciting too, because there's a lot of change and there is some agility there, but it's our airmen that are making the difference. So for us. So.
Dr. Pritchard, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to add, and this is something we were talking about just a little bit in the back end. When you talk about the challenges, the other pieces of it, the AI piece is kind of is easy, right? The engineering of that is not that hard. Then there's another piece of it. We said data, I said rather. So, and then we have said, so data is hard. AI piece is a little bit easier. But the other side of that spectrum, where we get into operational deployment and the safety part, is that bigger challenge, right? Because it's like, there's a trust there. There's a piece of it that, especially when you talk about the flying aircraft, right? Like we were kind of, and so if you've got something and then it becomes even way more imperative when you talk about like, oh, I've got collaborative combat aircraft, CCA initiative, thing like that. Safety is huge, and how do you test it? The hoops that you have to put an AI through to make sure that decision making process is rock solid, right? And then the human trust piece of it.
Yeah, that idea of like, what is trusted enough? What do we need to get to? I guess moving a little bit further, like, what have you learned the hard way about getting AI into routine use? Probably going to be a little bit similar to the challenges, but if there's anything else you want to add on that, the hard way?
There is a balance, a fine line between the fear factor that the portion of my population has to deal with, and the what do you mean it can't do this? This is magic. Gen AI is AI, period. Not computer vision, not machine learning, like just Gen AI, large language models, the ability to prompt it to to take a picture of something and mess with it is all it can do, right? Or why can't I run simulations of 1 million battles overnight on a large language model? That's not what that does. What? And so that balance, it just we are driving very hard to get there. We want to get there. Getting folks to understand what's within the realm of possible, what's within the realm of our data, what's within the realm of our networks, and what I have ATO to put on an Army network. This is my personal iPad. On this iPad, most days, I can access my government email, my entire Microsoft Office suite to include my shared drive, everything. Except I didn't update iOS last night. I can't access it now because the Army said, whoa, there was a vulnerability there. So we've shut off access until you update it. I also don't get enough cell phone signal to let it update here. There are days where I can't access my own data on my government computer, but that's okay because neither can China, Iran, Russia, or anybody else. But I can't either. And so trying desperately to pull that new capability online is a monumental task, and I generally balk when somebody presents us an idea and like the first question I ask is, does it have an ATO? Because it's 18 months on average. I can do faster, but my ability to move is not where I need it to be.
Right. Yeah, the security barrier is very large, and all of us in the commercial sector know that that's usually the first question is, does it have an ATO? And that timeline of being able to deliver capability to a mission owner at the speed of change in the commercial sector while meeting all those accreditations is a huge challenge.
And real quick, and and I'm going to call on Dr. Davis again. So this was a couple years ago. Yeah, I know you should be up here, sir. But no, absolutely. One of the things that was really interesting, because we were at Leavenworth, we doing an AI symposium, and Brian, we were there too. And it was yeah. And we were going through a sim, which was awesome. It was really cool, and everything was on a board game, right? It was kind of high tech, right? We had a projector that was on a board game. We went through it. It worked out great, right? Things, but I think what was really interesting was the conversation afterwards, because you could really, really see the apprehension between the East versus West culture around AI specifically. And I think it was exciting because there was an opportunity there for people to be able to hear this. And I asked the question, I said, how many people here have heard of Unitree? This was a couple years ago, so it's still kind of fresh, right? Nobody raised their hand. And I'm like, wow, the questions that were coming up were, should we be using AI? Should we be touching it? It was all very fear-based, right? And I was like, you know what? In Asia, they're not saying that. They're not doing any of that, right? And so it's like, they're like, we're all in. And so it's like, we're putting it in robots, we're putting it in law enforcement, we're putting it in our washing machines, we're putting it in everything we can put it in. And so I think that's a piece that we're gonna have to, we're getting around to it. And especially on the military side, if I'm gonna throw anything out there, we gotta move faster. We gotta, culturally.
Yeah, and one of the other concerns that I have out there is at what point are we comfortable with the decision making, right? Because if we want to move faster, we want to make decisions at a velocity nobody can keep up with. They're reacting to our 6 moves ago. But at the same time, in the United States of America, I think it's San Francisco, there is a shrine to a cat that got ran over by an autonomous car. Yeah. I think it's San Francisco. To the point where that city is trying to ban autonomous cars because one cat died. Not how many human lives have been saved by that technology, but the cat. In the Army, if you do an airborne operation, jump out of airplanes to get to your objective, acceptable casualties, injured, wounded, dead, in training is less than 20%. Anything less than 20%, falling out of an perfectly good airplane, hitting the ground, and getting injured is fine. But now let's switch that and say, but if the AI made the decision to jump that day, and 2 people got hurt, are we ready for that? Just not even in the Army, but just in America, as part of that culture, right? Like it's been beaten in my head, it's been beaten in your head. Like, we make decisions that impact people's lives. Okay, but now I'm going to trust the machine. Yes, because many people know humans are bad at making decisions. We use emotion, we use heuristics, we use biases. The machine should look at it from a different view, but it doesn't have, wait a minute, the last time we did this, it went horribly awry. Because we didn't put the data in, because we didn't have the data standardized. So how do we get through that piece of it, right? That fear aspect of, when I make this decision to commit soldiers and risk their lives, who's the ultimate call one?
Right. Human in the loop, human on the loop, human out of the loop, like how for that specific use case.
You know, and others are moving faster than us.
Right.
Because we look at that and go, no. I got to make that call. I got to live with that. The machine can't.
Yeah. I think we should move on to our quick Ukraine-China topic after that. So we all know, and I'll go back to a little less military stuff for our non-military folks up here. But obviously, China is making a lot of headway in AI and autonomy, and we've seen a lot of developments in Ukraine about them being able to iterate, in days and not as long as it's taking us. So what do you guys think is something that we need to try to change to be able to adapt faster, and like what kind of keeps you up at night in terms of what we're not doing to make those changes? I'll start with Colonel Hogan. Has any ideas? Or Colonel Wright? Or Dr. Pritchard?
You said yours. No, you got okay.
No, I thought we were going to keep this away from the military side.
No, I was
Because I'm
going
going
to
to go straight to.
No, we're going to do military and then we're
Circle
going to
back.
circle back.
Okay, so what needs to change?
Yes.
Um,
What are we learning?
I think Colonel Wright alluded to this, acceptance of risk. The investment at scale that we're talking about, attritable drone warfare, swarming technology, there is a significant level of risk that we're going to have to be able to assume. At the appropriate levels, yes, at the appropriate levels, but we have to identify, there's a lot of policies that have to go along with this. And we are trying to shape some of this in the state of Kansas right now. But I will tell you that the scale of development is not occurring at the level it needs to be, or we will not be competitive against any adversary, because there are significant risks that some of our adversaries are taking with embedding, with automating a lot of these capabilities, building attritable, UAVs at scale, and they're using them. So it's unclassified Operation Spiderweb. So Ukraine used a large scale amount of drones to take out very expensive weapon systems of an adversary. So they're changing the way we do warfare is changing in front of us, and everybody has a piece of this. It's not just the military; it is very much the federal side too, because they're going to use that technology and capabilities to take out our critical infrastructure and our key resources, and then we're all something, But again, there's got to be a level of risk. There's policies that have to change in the near term, and then the investment has to happen at scale, and we need to increase it exponentially, or fail. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah, investment and what other barriers do you think is preventing like DoD, DOW from matching that pace that China is doing in terms of development? Like what can we change as a department, as federal government, and from your side, Matt, like what do we need to change to make that happen at a quicker pace?
I don't know that I could have said it much better, because I think it is risk-based decisions and figuring out where that threshold is for us to make the right decisions. So figuring out where that is, doing it in the right ways, and getting to the solutions that we need is important, but doing it in the risk-based approach that is correct. We need to find that alignment.
There's also a piece of going back to the network and the security piece. We're watching in real time. We've been watching. They haven't displayed it as much. It's not just the cheaper weapon systems mass produced or in your garage mass produced weapon systems. You look at the command. There's a couple of instances that were on open source in terms of how they were doing command and control, how they were communicating targets to shooters to put effects on the enemy. In a lot of cases, they're either using something commercial off the shelf and just clobbling it all together and make it work within seconds. The other instance that they may do is, they're not all farmers in Ukraine, amazingly. They're coding in real time and making changes. Now, I'm not about to say that I should be coding when I should be looking over you and going, hey, help me out with this. But there is a speed factor that if we have the right people in the formation with the right education, not this guy, if I'm coding, I've made a mistake, who can make those changes quickly, or even build the simplest of applications. Maybe not a full-blown automation or a full-blown, there's some automations that are simpler, but even in terms of low code, no code, we sometimes are handicapped. And we're not going to have time to ask for permission. We're going to need to be able to change rapidly at pace, sometimes right in the midst of it. And how we get around that, again, going back to the networks and the trust and the security, or the even the inside of the threat kind of aspect of it, of what happens if it's not just poisoning the data, poisoning the code.
I think this is also the partnership aspect as well. Where can those in the community figure out what that partnership looks like? There are others who are going fast, so figuring out what that right area is to go figure out. I think that's extremely helpful as well. A lot of discussion about that within the government spaces. So just figuring out what that right level is, I think, is important.
Yeah, obviously everybody here said some very perfect things. I think one interesting topic is making, you were alluding to coding, right? Well, what is coding? Can you federate the ability to define mission parameters? What are you tolerant to risk on? What are the objectives? Can you bring a system using AI that allows maybe a less technically skilled soldier, maybe a digital native, but to go be the man-machine interface out in the field, send it off, right? Because not all theaters are created equal when it comes to this kind of stuff. There are some places like Ukraine that has a little more propensity for humans to receive feedback, retask, and things like that. But I think in the future, we need to be prepared for much more autonomous, fully autonomous, I think in Ukraine, we're taking the baby steps culturally that we need to, right? But knowing that it won't always be the case that we'll have our hand in the loop so much. And so I think, we need to keep moving towards accepted risk. I think that's super intelligent. Federating the ability to set mission parameters, I think is important. And then being prepared to accept more risk as things go do more and more autonomously.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Ukraine's doing it at a pace that surprised everyone, right? And they are doing stuff that's super novel in the field, and we talk about it all the time out at the College of Technology and Aviation, because really tied closely with the UAS work. And that's a big part of what we do out there. And one of the things we'll see all kinds of really neat stuff, and it's open source, right? But what you're seeing is an evolving role on the battlefield, right? So what's happening is this idea of your squad level folks that have, like your combat engineer, okay, great, right? And then designated marksman, and you have these different MOSs or whatever, what have you, for your particular areas that you're going to be front facing. But there's a piece of it that's now starting to show up on the field that would have never showed up. And I'm making this up because it's just what I do. But it's an autonomous combat engineer, right? This idea of someone who interfaces on the field close to be able to do some coding, because the field engineering that's what's moving really fast in Ukraine. It really was like, oh my God, what are you guys doing out in the field? The mission changed, so we're changing the equipment out. We're changing the robot out right now. And like, well, isn't that going to take you a couple months? No. We need this out next week. Like it needs to be like 3 days from now. And they're developing super uber agile, fast engineering processes out there, and it's amazing. So I think there's going to be some adjustments to the way that occurs too, the way that the way that the Army, I'm picking on the Army right now, but the way that happens out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, because it's
but it's true, right? Like, they are doing literally the sci-fi trope of recoding, whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, it doesn't matter. They're recoding the system to solve the problem within, the 15 minutes before Act 4 closes. I can't get Jupyter Notebooks access for one of my officers is a National Guard officer. His civilian job, he is a data scientist. He teaches data analytics AI at Maryville University. I can't get him a developer environment. I can't. I'm like, he could. Please don't take this. Please don't take this personally. I could get him to do half the stuff that I'm trying to buy. Please don't take it personally. But I can't even get him access to a dev environment. How does he blow up a sun with Stargate if I can't even get him access to the software?
You need some
Rub
kind
two
of,
sticks together?
now you need the forcing function, I guess, unfortunately. Okay, I want to open it up for questions. I hope that the audience has some questions for our distinguished panelists here.
How do you feel about the ecosystem in the region creating AI capabilities that create impact to the mission? Because I think when you think about this organization, you see it, we're all patriots, we all love Kansas City, the region, we love Missouri, Kansas. But I think what we're trying to do is coalesce a group of people around the technology, right? How do you feel about maybe the region's general readiness to support your mission? And are you have to go outside of San Francisco? I mean, Molly's a great one, right? She works for a San Francisco company, but she's based here in Kansas City. Great example. How do you feel about that generally? You're finding what you need.
So we support a weapon system. And I will tell you the mass majority of industry that supports our particular weapon system is not in the region whatsoever. However, break, we are pushing hard on Air Force research labs to get more investment and keep some of the industry development here in the state of Kansas, but also just the region specifically. We were talking earlier about the national security crossroads that occurred last year. It's trying to bring the stakeholders to the table to say, hey, why do you need to be in this region? And why does it need to be in Kansas? So we are trying to push. We're very cognizant. I will tell you, as a Kansas native, I constantly talk about, I prefer this region over any Silicon Valley company, just because of the work ethic and what they actually care about what data is being put in our warfighters' hands and what capabilities are we able to integrate in a timely order that doesn't cost substantially more than we can afford. So am I comfortable with it from my perspective? No, not yet. However, I do see a lot of investment and a lot of advocacy that's going on why you need to bring it to this region. I feel like we're a little bit behind the power curve specifically around some of our surrounding states. But I will tell you that one of our efforts right now is the Point Defense Task Force. So if you haven't heard, one of our Kansas was one of 2 states that were awarded the Point Defense Task Force. So the full intent of those kind of efforts, which is both research development, leveraging academia, leveraging existing infrastructure, but then also leveraging existing companies that can build them. So you get research development, build them, and then we are trying to figure out how to defeat them. So we are trying to bring all industry to the table. There's a couple of events. We talked about this with Dr. Pritchard earlier. In the near future of, hey, bring the stakeholders to the table. Shield AI announcement was huge for us, of course. We need our industry partners to see, and other industry partners to see, the investment is going on here. And I think more will come. If we start seeing more of that investment, I will feel a little bit more comfortable about it. But some of it is we need to advocate for it too from our end. Change policies. Lieutenant Colonel Keith Marshall is back here. So hopefully he's our Chief of Legislative Affairs. He has spent a lot of time with Senator Moran, Senator Marshall, other congressional delegation of trying to affect change here, drive policy changes, and then also bring investment here. So there is a lot of things going. I think we're just a little bit behind, but I think we'll get there. I truly believe that. So,
And if I can add in between for the next question, the other thing too, I agree. I mean, I think we've got a lot of the infrastructure here locally. I mean, regionally. Between on the university side, you've got a lot of capabilities with all the universities we have. I'm gonna, of course, plug K-State here for a few things, but we've got a Center for Artificial Intelligence and Data Science that brings all of us together internally at K-State that have the AI machine learning backgrounds, right? And that brings a nice little brain trust together of the professors inside K-State that have that expertise, but then can also be used for industry collaborations, right? We also have Kate Aries. Kate on here could talk a lot about that piece of it, but it's our on the simulation side. We've got a 60,000 square foot building that's going up out in Salina. That's a artificial intelligence simulation center, right? National level compute capability to be able to do and embed AI within, not just for testing purposes, but operational pieces, not just training, but being able to do quite a bit. So there's those pieces, and I think, outside of K-State, University of Kansas has a lot of capability. UMKC has a lot of capability. You've got Rolla that's not far away. Wichita State, I mean, and it's just, there's a lot of really great infrastructure that's not just academic, and I say those universities, they're very industry tied, very industry heavy as well. So a lot of capability. So I'm excited about what we've got and what we're building. And Brian, thank you for having me on here too. So Molly, thank you for having me on here.
So can I put a pin in one more thing there? The other aspect of it is collaboration. I think instead of viewing it as competing priorities, it's collaborating amongst ourselves to say, hey, let's work on some of these problems together. And I think that has probably not always, and I could be completely wrong. You can shoot me up here if you want to, but I think what we have seen is competing priorities with companies competing against each other for saying, hey, well, let's come together to solve some of these more significant problems. I think we're starting to see more of that collaboration pick up too from our lens at the tactical level. And I think there's a lot of energy behind that too. So hopefully that helps.
This may or may not be within your purview. It may relate more to cybersecurity, but I'm thinking about the recent incident with Claude AI detecting an attack. Is anyone thinking about checks and balances or a kill switch regarding AGI?
Do you want to do a music? So does anyone else want to take it? No. I don't want to keep talking, but start. The short answer is yes. I'm always long-winded. But we have teams that are working on our ability to defend. So especially autonomous systems. So we actually have teams that we have a red team. So one of 12 National Security Agency certified red teams is at McConnell Air Force Base at the 184th Wing. So we're sending those teams out to exploit the vulnerabilities in each one of these weapon systems. And then we have a team that is figuring out how to defend against them. So you take the red team effect and you take the blue team, and how am I going to be able to defend against it? So we talk about the future of warfare. We are trying to think of it from each lens of how do you research, develop it, build it, test it, integrate it, but then also simultaneously, how do you identify the vulnerabilities and then that are going to be exploited, because they have been exploited and they will continue to be exploited. But how do you get ahead of that in our ability to defend it? So we are thinking of it from that lens, at least from the defense side. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
So it's an interesting question. The good news is, by my measure, we have some time before a rampant running AGI goes crazy, right? But I think it's something that everybody's thinking about. I think what's interesting is you can put a lot of effort into safeguarding your own stuff, but it's not our own stuff we're probably mostly concerned with, right? So I think the really interesting problem becomes, what are those who are potentially more nefarious or just more reckless? What are we doing about them, right? And that's a complex answer, but that is a very developing, I think, kind of practice, in the industry. But for right now, I think that I don't think AI is quite as scary as it comes off. I think that the scare factor is almost a little bit of a marketing kind of a marketing strategy by some of the bigger AI companies, but it's a matter of time before it becomes a real threat. Yeah.
We have time for one more question, so we can time for networking.
Thank you, gentlemen. Early on, you spoke about some of the strides that AI had made over the last 5 years. I'm interested in thinking, what hurdles do you think still need to be overcome in the next 5 years, if you think that we'll be able to overcome those?
Man, so many hurdles. So it's super exciting, right? I think that getting I'm going to speed round this. Kind of feel like I need to. So getting models that are more performant at the edge, like at the tactical edge, right? I think that deepening the understanding of the separate modalities of data and continuing the work in making sure that you've got your spreadsheets and you've got your telemetry and you've got this and you've got that the science of making sure that all that data can contribute to a holistic analysis so that we can move away from kind of this best sensor wins spot analytic to, let's just say, instead of a spot analytic, I think the next thing is strategic AI, things that are taking in all of the parameters of a mission and are able to do mission orchestration as opposed to just kind of giving off one little analytic. I think that's what the next round of AI looks like. And this is just a cliche now after hearing this group talk, but without the data and the holistic kind of access of the meaning of that data, that strategic AI can't become a thing. So it's all about getting that data underpinning into this new mission orchestration,
Also think about it from a people perspective of bringing new workforce in that is utilizing AI on a much more consistent basis and merging them with a staff that maybe does not or is reluctant to use it. So I think even culturally, merging those staffs together and figuring out how to use the tools in a way that is beneficial to all of them is a huge hurdle, and agree with everything you said from a technical perspective as well. But that's something that we're certainly focused on and trying to figure out what that looks like over the next 5, maybe 5+ years.
Sorry, Dr. Breaker?
Yeah, I'd say 2 things. Democratization of AI is going to be something that's going to be big. And what I mean by that is, right now when you interact with ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever it is that your Gemini and whatever you're wanting to interact with, it's in the cloud, right? And you're having conversations, it's getting saved in the cloud, it's getting saved up there, it's getting reused as well. to help train the models, right? To help sensitize the models. Some of that's good, but that's, people rightly, like, there's a privacy piece to it. There's a personal piece of it that you're like, I'm like unloading a lot of my personal data in here. Like, let's just keep it simple, like medical records as an example. I want to upload medical records into an AI, and I want to get an analysis from my radiology report that I don't understand, right? And so that's great. Okay, great. And then you put it in, and it gives you something that's more readable back to you. But here's the catch: you put your data, or you put your personal medical information up in the cloud. Right? Me personally, I don't care. People, I do it. So, but because I get good information back. But where I'm going with this is the democratization of it is really, I think, the next piece of it that companies are going to fight. Because what's going to happen is I want to have something that's personal to me, my own personal augmented large language model, multimodal model, not just LLM, but something that's just mine that lives with me for my lifetime, right? That's sensitized to me, that's not uploaded to the cloud. There is a piece of it that kind of architecture we're thinking through. What does that even look like? How does that, there's safety considerations with that. There's a bunch of like unknowns, questions that come up with that, that we don't have, we have a lot of questions but no answers to. So I think that is a big piece of it too, so for the future.
Good startup idea right there.
I was gonna say, if you solve that, let me know, because we're trying to figure out how to do that with training, right, with soldiers. When I was a lieutenant, this is what I did, this is how I behaved, this is how I acted. What did I learn then that I didn't, I learned, but I didn't accept, or I'm still trying to learn. And the final point is just, I need to get beyond aggregation of data and rewriting of the data into a, 14th century Italian sonnet. It was an actual experiment we did. Ridiculous. But to get to prediction, right? When I was a lieutenant, I knew that if I saw 3 BMPs in one bird, there was a 98% chance within 30 minutes that a forward security element was coming behind that from the Soviets. Behind that by an hour was the advanced guard main body. I can still recite the number of BIMPs, Bergens, tanks that were in those formations. And I can tell you with a certain degree of percentage, just looking at a battlefield schematic, with the percentage of likelihood that where their attack was going. Now let's scale that out across everything we do in the Army. Training people, keeping an eye on the people that are going to get in trouble and cause us lots of paperwork and nightmares. But just across the board, that ability to predict, if we do this training according to this training schedule, what's likely to happen? Not what's exactly going to happen. What's likely to happen? We're still using, for sustainment planning, we're still using 1950s data to plan logistics. Sherman tanks used a hell of a lot less fuel than an M1 tank. It's wrong from the get-go.
Right.
That ability for me to get predictive and inform my boss, there's a 28% chance that this is going to go sideways. Okay, cool. All right, boss, just want to let you know.
All right, I think we could throw about 800 more questions at these guys, but I will let you bother them after we got off stage, if you can stick around. I think there's probably still some drinks available. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you so much, our panelists. Thank you so much to Keystone Innovation District, to Christina, to Kevin, to Gwen, to the whole team. We love this partnership so much. Thank you also to Dale. He has done so much work on this and literally has helped me out so much with all these events. So thank you, Dale. I don't know where you are. Our next one is scheduled for Wednesday, February 25th already. That's going to be with DIU out of Kansas. They're on-ramp there. And so we're starting a partnership with them as well. That's going to be, the topic is funding pathways. So if you work in tech or startups or even, academia and want to understand how to work with DIU and their processes, that's a really great one to attend. So we hope to see you there. Thank you so much, you guys. It's been great. And yes, feel free to bother them. I'll volunteer them if they can stay. Thank you.